we're working through kind of the exit meetings with everyone. We haven't finished them, but Jim addressed the group and I think spoke on all our behalves. Just really thank the guys for a hell of a season. There's only one team that's happy at the end of the year. We were one of the last three standing. There was a lot to be proud of. We didn't get accomplished what we wanted to get accomplished at the end of the day. But I think there was a lot of pride in our group's ability to come to the rink every game all season and compete. I felt, and Jim felt the same way, that this team, felt like it could win every night, was never out of a game, played for each other, and there was a lot of good things to build on, and I think that's the important part, is when you don't win, have you established building blocks that you can build on for next year, and I think we did that, and we've got to come back next year and build on that.
You've been a part of a lot of teams, and Joe mentioned this the other night when he said it felt real. Are there certain runs that feel like you have a real chance as opposed to just going on a magical run, getting a hot streak or something like that?
Yeah, I think so. And you know what? It didn't just catch fire during the playoffs. It felt like that all year. I felt like we were a legitimate contender all year. And, it's a good feeling to have. At the same time, you realize when you get into the playoffs how hard it is to win. The Toronto Maple Leafs won their first round of playoffs in 19 years. We beat out the Minnesota Wild, who haven't won a round in 6 years or 7 years and have had multiple 100-plus point seasons recently. So, it's a really hard league to get in the playoffs. It's an even harder league to win around. And when you get to the end and as close as we did, those margins get even smaller.
Were there any players or your team as a whole that kind of exceeded your expectations this season?
I think just about everyone, to be honest with you. I think I came into the position in the summer, and we wanted, with a clear, obviously clear goals of keeping our defensive identity that's been here and adding some offense. And I thought the guys, to a man, jumped on that and rode that, right through the season and the playoffs, and that allowed us to become a dangerous team every night. I thought both special teams were excellent. Very rarely do you get both your special teams in the top 5 in the league, and it's going to be a challenge to keep them there. But I thought all our players bought into both those situations, and were really excellent. Goaltender was outstanding. Even better than advertised. And then obviously there's a lot of individuals that were better in person than when you're standing on the other bench, and you get more of an appreciation for them. But really there wasn't any disappointments when I looked at our group. There wasn't anyone that I looked at and said, boy, that was a real disappointing year. I thought everyone took some steps, some bigger steps than others, but everyone took some steps.
Before the overall question, I'm asking, you mentioned the other night that Jake was dealing with injury. What was
that? You know what? All the injuries, we'll let the players disclose what they want to. I think there's two ways to do that. Either we'll release, the team will release an injury update on everyone. I think they've chosen not to do that, so they've kind of left it to the players to talk about that. So I don't want to get into that.
But as far as your roster, your core is pretty much going to be intact going next year. What does that mean if you're going into an all season knowing that you've got most of your pieces coming back?
Yeah, well, it's a great feeling. I know the group now. Last summer I didn't know the group. There was a lot of teaching on the fly. Thank God Joe Pavelski was in the room and helped with that. But I think we're all more comfortable going into next season. You're right, that core is all going to be back. Everyone knows what to expect. We don't have to start at ground zero. We can hopefully get into some more things quicker than we did this year. Some more details that we didn't get to because we were starting from scratch. So I'm excited, and I would expect we'll have a hungry group. I think when you get this close and get a taste of it, you want to get back.
Jamie Benn had obviously a great year. Just
Yeah.
How sustainable do you think that is, and if so, why do you believe
Yeah.
it's sustainable?
Well, I think it's sustainable. I think everyone asks the same question about Joe Pavelski, right, every summer. Is it sustainable? And he keeps coming back and doing it again. So I think Jamie's in a position now with himself and his training, with his ice time, with his spot on the power play, on a really good power play, with Wyatt Johnson on that line, where there's no reason he shouldn't be able to do the same things again.
Pete, talking about your core again, how do you view the concept of windows to compete to
Yeah.
win, and what do you think about that, especially with some of the young talent you have?
Yeah. Well, it's exciting, and I think it's a great question because we have a group where you could argue that the window's not closed, but it's closing, but there's a whole nother group of guys in the middle and coming that is just starting to open up, and a lot of times the teams that win have that combination of the older veteran guys that are getting to the back nine of their career, so to speak, and an injection of youth underneath that's really driving it and pushing it forward. So, I think we're very fortunate here that we have that, and there's a lot more coming, which is exciting.
What do you hope that Jason Robertson takes from this season, from his regular season to the playoffs, and then it looked like he got things going in the last series? Just seemed like a very, just an adjusting year for him.
Yeah. Well, I think all those young players learned a lot. I had my exit meeting with Jake Ottinger. It's his first year starting. It's his first time he's won a playoff series, and he did it in Minnesota against his hometown team under some heavy pressure. First time he's won a Game 7 to help us move into the next round, which he did against Seattle in the second round. And I think Robertson's the same, and Rupe, first time he's led the NHL in playoff scoring and really been a dominant player this time of year. So I think all those guys can't help but learn from the experience. Both in the good things that happen and the wins, but also in the struggles. How hard it was to score in the early rounds and the things he did differently as it went forward against Vegas in order to get going again. So I think critical experience for all those really good young players.
You mentioned line changes was maybe one thing that you wanted to look at. Are there any particular things that you were going into the offseason as a coach and wanting to look at?
Yeah, well, we've got to look at our regular season overtime, 3-on-3. Cost us, we left a lot of points on the table, but, potentially a regular season division and our conference title on the table with our overtime record. So that's something we've got to dig into. I still think we've got to find some more depth scoring. I thought, our power play, our first line, we relied on a lot. I think we've got to get more from the meat of the lineup in contributions, especially come the tough time of year, the playoffs. You look at the teams that are still standing, and the teams that have success this time of year, and you've got to get that depth scoring because the games end up 5-on-5. It's not special teams that really decide these games this late in the season.
What's your message to Wyatt Johnson going into this offseason after just a tremendous first year?
Yeah, just to I want him to take some time and enjoy it and reflect and relax. You know, he's had a lot on his plate, and you know, that takes a toll mentally and physically, an NHL season on a young guy like that. So that's the first thing. I want him to relax and reflect and enjoy it and be proud of his accomplishments. And then, you know, and then get back to work and realize that it's not going to be just automatic next year. You know, it's you know, sophomore slumps, things like that are real, and it doesn't mean you have to fall into that trap. And he's got to make sure that he doesn't.
Do you want to decide?
What's that?
Where's he going to live?
Yeah, I don't know. That's $1 million question. I don't know.
Long-term lease with the.
Yeah, I don't know. Pav's back. I think Pav would love to have him. I don't know. It's I don't know if Wyatt's ready to move out on his own yet or not. I don't know where his cooking skills are or things like that. So that'll all get decided. But you know, couldn't have been a better situation for him this year, and I think he knows that and recognizes that.
Hey, what about for you? Do you reflect on your first year here and how things ended coming out of Vegas last night?
Yeah, you know, I like I said, I loved the group. I loved Dallas. I loved the fans. I loved the home rink. You know, I loved the buzz in the city. You know, as we got rolling in the playoffs, I mean, there was so many great things that went on. A little bit of a whirlwind, just with coming in new, and you know, basically with the month of August to kind of get prepared for it, and so you know, I think I'll have some time to reflect on it, but. You know, the taste of that last game, really the two games in the final series, game 3 and then the final game, you know, that'll start to fade. I think it still hasn't yet, but that'll start to fade, and then I think we'll look back and realize, you know, what a great accomplishment, and there was a lot to be proud of with this group.
Going back to Wyatt, sophomore slumps are real, but do you have to consider him living on his own? Is that a factor? Trying to avoid a sophomore slump.
Yeah, I you know what? I think Jim and I played a part in those living arrangements this year. I think Wyatt's got a year under his belt. He's an established NHL player. I think those are decisions now that he's got to make.
We talked about how great Jake has been. Having seen him for a season, what do you think the ceiling is now? How much better can he be?
Well, in my exit meeting with him, this guy's hungry. He wants to be the best. He wants to be the best in the world. He wants to win a Stanley Cup. That's all he talks about, and that's music to a coach's ear. You know, he was actually our first exit meeting today. That shows you, you know, he's ready to go. What's next? What do you want me to do? What do I have to work on? You know, that's his mindset. So. That's fantastic.
The hardship of the salary cap are real. Do you like the group that's coming up who might be the cheaper options? You know, the Nils Lundqvist, the Stankovens, guys like that who could be in the lineup next year.
Yeah, I think I'm excited. You know, again, we didn't hand Wyatt Johnson a job. You know, everyone talked about Wyatt Johnson. I think we went in and listen, in 15 years of coaching in this league, I've never had a young player do what Wyatt Johnson did, and that's 15 first-round picks, you know, every year, ready to play, and you know, and then you realize they're not yet. So, you know, I think sometimes we can get a little. You see a Wyatt Johnson, you just expect the next 3 guys are ready to go. That's not always the case. So, I think you know, we'll talk to Jim about roster and things. I think the one thing Jim said since day one is we're not going to hand anybody jobs here based on draft position or you know, contract. You know, they're on a rookie contract, so they get a job. You know, that's not how it works. They're going to have to earn it, but there will be opportunity, and I think we've shown with Wyatt and with Lundqvist this year for 60 games, and with Harley in the playoffs, that if you're a good young player, you know, we're not going to hold your age against you if you can help us win.
What do you make of Nils' year, and what do you hope that he does next?
I think Nils had a good year. I mean, you know, when you look at Nils' development and you look at the other defensemen in his draft class and things. I think he's right on track. I mean, the year before, he played 20 games with the Rangers, 25, and another 30 in the American League. You know, and didn't really dominate at either level. So this year, he became a regular NHL player and you know, played on the power play and got some time with Miro Heiskanen and got used to the league and recognized how tough it is. And you know, so those building blocks now, he's put some more on top of his first year over here with the Rangers. He's added some more to them, and next year he's got to add some more to his game again. But you know, there's zero disappointment on my part. I think you have to temper expectations with young players. It's a really tough league to step into, and it's particularly tough for defensemen, and it's particularly tough for offensive young defensemen. And you know, you look at the team that just beat us. You know, there's not a defenseman on that team under 25 years old. And you know, I watched Haig and White Cloud come up. I was part of that. You know, they weren't ready. They weren't the players they are now. Three years ago, when they were Nils' age. You know, you look at Florida's defense. Same thing. There's not a lot of defensemen, offensive defensemen, that are contributing this time of year on any of these teams left standing. So, you know, that's not a knock on Nils.
We have time for one more question, guys. With him just
What's that?
We thought about asking Essen to let Mills move in 3 years.
Yeah. Again, these living arrangements. These guys are grown men, and you know, they're actually. I think Nils has got his girlfriend with him here, so he's in good hands. Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Thanks.